Hi and welcome to the third boss guide in Sunwell Plateau. This guide revolves around Felmyst. As I said in the video on Brutalis, Felmyst is summoned a couple of seconds after Brutalis dies and is fought in the same arena. Now, even though Felmyst is technically a dragon, it only has half the standard dragon mechanics, so it only has a frontal cleave and no tail swipe. This makes this fight significantly easier as it leaves a lot more room to fight. Preferably, you want to fight with the tank starting here near the tree, with Felmyst facing this back room, making sure that no one gets cleaved. Melee will be standing behind, and ranged plus healers will be in 3 separate groups, roughly 25 yards apart from each other. The reason for this is because Felmyst has a range of mechanics during ground phase, and there's also an air phase in this with only 2 mechanics in. We'll go through the ground phase first. So throughout this entire fight, both air and ground, you'll be taking nature damage every 3 seconds. Something called Noxus Fumes. It will do roughly 1,000 nature damage every 3 seconds. As I mentioned before, there's a frontal cleave, standard dragon stuff. The third mechanic of this fight is called Corrosion, and it's a tank debuff only. This debuff is cast on the tank, increasing damage taken by 100% for 10 seconds. This does not require a tank swap or anything, it means increased damage towards the tank currently tanking. Felmyst can't crush, so damage is a lot steadier doing this. I would advise using a paladin tank for this fight due to ads spawning in air phase as well, so you can just use 1 tank. However, you can use 2 tanks if you want a separate tank in ground phase and you want to use the paladin for ads during air phase. Now, the last 2 mechanics are the most important during this. We'll start with something called Gas Nova. Gas Nova is cast on the raid, and there's no specific timer on it. It deals an initial 2,000 damage to everyone in the raid, and also applies a debuff that deals 3,000 damage and drains 1,000 mana every 2 seconds. This can be dispelled, and this is why you're in these small groups. So we're going to use our priests to use Master Spell. This is both for Disc and Holy and also Shadow Priests. So they'll just Master Spell the groups, and that's why you stay in a group. No more than 10 people in a group, however, because otherwise Encapsulate might ruin you. So we'll split the raid up sort of evenly. There'll be a melee group, there'll be 3 caster groups, and we'll try and keep it there. If we only have 2 priests, then we might use it in 2 groups and hope for good timings on the encapsulates. And what is encapsulate? Encapsulate is a sphere that's put around a random raid member, and you're lifted up in the air. When you get lifted up in the air, you deal 3,500 arcane damage every second around you. You pulse, and this happens for 6 seconds. Rogues, you can Cloak of Shadows. Paladins, you can use Divine Shield. Mages, you can ice block this ability. Please do so instantly, because it saves the raid from a lot of damage. Now, after roughly 1 Gas Nova, maybe 2, and encapsulate, Felmyst goes up in the air and casts a beam called Demonic Vapor that follows a random raid member for 10 seconds. This beam leaves a poison trail behind, and from this poison trail there'll be ads spawning. If any raid member hits these these poison patches, additional undead will spawn from it, so don't stand in that. Other than that, Felmyst also has a breath attack, much like Onyxia. This one is called Fog of Corruption, and it covers 1/3 of the battle map. We'll divide the map up into 3 sections. So this top section here, this will be a tree section. Then from around here, near the wagon, and near this one, the wagon here, this is the middle part of it. You can also use this box as an indicator. And the last bit is fire, which is close to the fire down here, which would be down here. So one of these 3 areas will be covered. You can see Felmyst. Felmyst will fly to the end of the arena, either here or here, and start throwing this breath out. If you get hit by the poison cloud here, you'll get mind controlled, and this is a permanent mind control until you're killed. Once 3 breaths have been cast, Felmyst lands on the ground again, and rinse repeat. There's no exact timer, like I said, on Gas Nova and Encapsulate, but most of the time we have Gas Nova first, and then after a short amount of time, Encapsulate happens. So we could potentially try and stack for Gas Nova, and as soon as Gas Nova happens, we spread out to minimize the amount of damage done by Encapsulate. But the standard strategy will be that we group up throughout the entire fight, and we just run away when you get encapsulated. If you get encapsulated, say you're in group standing here, then don't just run back here away from the encapsulate, run down towards another group, because you'll be running towards healers. We'll have healers situated in each group, so that you can actually get healed on the way in case you're low on health. Mages obviously blink as well if you're not the one being targeted by encapsulate, and if you have engineering, you have rocket boots, this is a great place to use them, just like on Mother Shiraz, to minimize the damage. We'll not be using any resistance gear for this, it's not needed. However, you could use some of your arcane resistance if you wanted to from Kalegos to ease up the damage on encapsulate. However, not necessary. For healers specifically, it's nice to have a healer together with the melee group to dispel the tank. Should probably be a paladin when Gas Nova goes out, so we have a single dispel on that person, seeing as everyone else will be mass dispelled primarily. If there's only a few priests in the raid, we'll still use single dispels from priests and paladins. It just takes a long time, so we'll try and focus mainly on just using mass dispel. Right, I'll try and pull the boss here and see if I can't show you the fight or the mechanics, what they actually look like. So here we go. Felmyst is pulled, and we'll just tank it here, like so. Here's Corrosion, increasing damage dealt on me, and this is the Noxious Fume. Don't mind the number is just because I'm on retail, so numbers don't quite fit, but the actual number will be roughly 1000 damage. Here we got Gas Nova, that was 1, just for those counting. Here's Encapsulate. This pulse, this is what deals damage around 20 yards around you. That's quite high arcane damage. So it's important that you move quick as soon as you see it. Don't finish your cast, just start running instantly. And as you could see, it was only a few seconds after the Gas Nova that we had Encapsulate, so there is time to move away after Gas Nova. Just make sure that you're dispelled before we start moving away, just so we don't mess up the mass dispelling. Here we go. There's an air phase. Keep DPSing Felmyst once she's in range, unless you get followed by the beam like this. It's a good idea generally to run the beam down towards the fire, keep the poison patches sort of roughly in the same area. These will follow me quite heavily, seeing as I'm only one person. And if I go into them like this, I spawn additional zombies. So you don't want to do that, just stay clear of the poison. Try not to put it all over the place, because we do want to keep space open for when Felmyst starts to breath. Here she starts lining up. This will be the fireplace, so the bottom row. No, sorry, this is middle. And you just don't step in the poison. The poison vaporizes after the breath is cast. Here we go again. This is tree, this is top part. Again, we just wait for the poison to move. And it's in the top half again, so we just stay down here. And you wait for the poison to disappear. And as soon as the poison disappears, Felmyst will land again, and we'll start over from the ground phase, and it's just rinse repeat. I do believe there is a threat reset, so we'll misdirect Felmyst every time it lands, just to make sure that it goes back on the tank, and we tank it back at this spot, like so. Yeah, that's the fight. Just DPS it down slowly, and kill boss, get loot.